Good evening and welcome to this edition of The List on UWW-TV. I'm Chris Pittner alongside David Pallier. For the next few minutes, we'll present our top 5 sports stories of the week and discuss why they made the top 5. Did your top 5 make the list? Let's find out. At story number 5, we have late NFL season trades. The Los Angeles Rams recently traded wide receiver Allen Robinson to the Pittsburgh Steelers, with more changes incoming, such as Jalen Hurts extending the contract with the Eagles, the Chiefs adding Blaine Gabbert to back up Mahomes, and the Dolphins signing Chosen Anderson in the draft upcoming. How does this change the start of the season for teams, David?
Well, I think the Allen Robinson trade will provide some good depth to the Steelers' wide receiver room. Obviously, with George Pickens and Deontay Johnson still being very young, I think a good veteran wide receiver like Robinson will provide some much-needed experience to that group. So hopefully the Steelers will be able to climb out of that kind of the middle ground that they were in last year. And it's never a bad idea to provide a safety blanket receiver for your young franchise quarterback. And in terms of the 49ers, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how they handle their quarterback room. Obviously, with Brock Purdy recovering from that UCL tear he suffered in the game against the Eagles in the playoffs. We're not really sure where Trey Lance stands right now. They did sign Sam Darnold, so hopefully they'll have some sort of consistency at the quarterback position. But either way, you have to think that the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan will figure out some way to kind of remedy the questions they have about their quarterback room right now.
Yeah, and then moving over to the Dolphins, the signing of Chosen Anderson is really good for their wide receiver depth. He has been a solid player for the Panthers through all the years, and he made a slight impact on Arizona. He was dealing with some injury concerns last season, but I think the Dolphins personally have one of the deeper wide receiver rooms in the NFL with that signing.
And at story number 4, the Stanley Cup playoffs. At number 4, the NHL season is starting to wrap up for its championship, with the end of the season bracket being posted. Chris, especially with record-setting teams like the Boston Bruins competing, what do you think will happen throughout the Stanley Cup Finals?
I really think there's a lot of decent teams in hockey this year. I know David Pastrnak had 61 goals this season for the Bruins. Patrice Bergeron's another solid player. They are currently up 2-0 on the wildcard team, Florida Panthers. They're definitely poised to make a deep run. I know the Edmonton Oilers are definitely in a good position. I know they're down 1-0 to the Kings right now, but they do have potential league MVP Connor McDavid, along with other stars such as Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Leon Draisaitl.
Yeah, you have to think that with all that talent on the Oilers, they won't stay down for long, especially with no injuries left. Chris, if you had to pick a Stanley Cup champion right now, which team do you think would you have to say?
I think really just the safest pick right now is the Bruins, but I'm just going to say the Oilers because I really believe in their offense. David, how about you?
I would also have to say the Oilers. I think talent goes as far as talent will take the team as far as they can, and even though the Oilers are down right now, I think that the Oilers are the most talented team in hockey, so I would have to go with them.
Now, at number 3, we have NBA playoff madness. The NBA playoffs are officially in full swing and not without some surprising wins and injuries. As of right now, the Miami Heat are currently leading the 1-seeded Milwaukee Bucks 1-0, but it's not with its fair share of injuries coming out, with Miami star Tyler Hero suffering an injury during the first game of the series, and he has been ruled out for the rest of the postseason after hand surgery will take place on Friday. Other playoff berths include the Celtics leading Atlanta 1-0, Philadelphia leading Brooklyn 2-0, and the Kings leading the Warriors from Golden State 2-0. David, how are you feeling about the playoffs so far, and what are your first impressions through the first round?
Well, I have to credit the Kings. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about how well Mike Brown has put together these first 2 home games. Honestly, this isn't the same Warriors team as last year. Obviously, they have a terrible record of 11-30 in away games this year, and the depth is just kind of not the same as it was last year. But still, for a team like the Kings, who hasn't made the playoffs since 2006, to be taking Steph Curry down to his first 0-2 start in a playoff series of his entire career, that's something to celebrate. I think the Kings are a very exciting team. I think they play with a super hot pace. They shoot a lot of three-pointers, and a big man in Domantas Sabonis who can potentially change the pace of the game inside. If the Kings can at least take one game in Golden State, I would not be surprised if they were to make a deep run in this year's playoffs.
I would not be surprised either, honestly. They've looked very good to start off. But moving over to the East, I think really the series to watch is going to be the New York Knicks and Cleveland Cavaliers. They've already put up 2 very good games so far. And another series in the West to watch is the Clippers and Suns as they are currently split at 1-1. The Suns had a really hot shooting night last night, shooting around 60%, and the Clippers had a really good first game. Kawhi Leonard has been playing spectacular for them.
Yeah, and I think going back to what you said about the Knicks and the Cavs, there could potentially be some bad blood there with that Jared Allen foul on Julius Randle where his hand kind of got caught in the basket support. With only 2 minutes left, that kind of seemed a bit unnecessary. So we'll see if any of that animosity transfers over to the games in Cleveland, or in New York, I'm sorry, because Julius Randle in a previous interview said, we'll see how it is when we get to our city. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on.
We've got more coming up on the list, including an update on a football star's injury. We will be right back.
For Hawk Talk, especially on days I'm hosting, you really need to be up early looking at those news stories. Even the night before, I'm finding topics that I can incorporate in the show, and I feel like we get a conversation going.
Once you get the opportunity to do that with other people who appreciate it at the same level as you do, it makes it that much more enjoyable.
For everything sports, tune in Monday through Thursday at 91.7 The Edge or watch us on UWW-TV.
Here at UW Whitewater Intramural Sports, we have a motto: a sport for everyone and everyone in a sport.
Come on! That's it anyways. Oh, she got that off, and they're going to count it.
Had a blast. Always have fun at intramurals.
Every day we strive to go above and beyond that goal by providing healthy exercise, promoting leisure education, and giving students that competitive atmosphere they are looking for.
Yes! Yes!
It's exciting. Brings me back to those high school days with Friday Night Lights.
With our 25 different intramural sports offered, we guarantee that we have a sport for you. Go to our website and find your sport today.
Number 32, Kyle Hornsby.
Inside the 30. Touchdown. Michaela Burgess. An incredible finish by Hall.
The NCAA and its member schools offer nearly 500,000 college athletes a path to go pro in something other than sports. Learn more at ncaa.org.
As an Army ROTC cadet at Whitewater, you have the opportunity to develop into a great leader while learning and applying the Army values to your everyday life. Within ROTC, you have the chance to travel overseas in the CULP program to train with other militaries, attend many elite Army schools such as Airborne and Combat Diver, and you have the opportunity to attend conferences and guest lectures by some of the Army's top-ranking officers. Our Warhawk cadets participate in many extracurricular activities, Division III sports, Greek life, intramural sports, among many other team building and community service events. Being a cadet at Whitewater is more than just being part of the Army. It's also about being active members in our community and coming together to form a family atmosphere. Anyone who wants to be a part of something bigger than themselves while developing themselves professionally should consider UW Whitewater ROTC. To sign up for UW Whitewater ROTC, go to the 4th floor of McCutcheon Hall to room 417.
Welcome back to The List on UWW-TV. Let's continue the countdown to this week's top sports stories. At story number 2, Buffalo Bills cornerback Damar Hamlin announced on Tuesday that he plans on making an NFL comeback after being fully cleared medically to play. Hamlin, who suffered a concussion injury during the January 2nd game against the Cincinnati Bengals, has since been in recovery since then. Chris, do you think that this is the best decision for Damar, and how do you think it'll affect the future of the NFL?
I know we saw something similar to this in soccer with Christian Eriksen, after he suffered a similar injury and he's out there playing again. I don't remember the team exactly, but I think it is definitely possible. I think it is a bit of a gamble, though, for Damar to go back out there, especially with how much of a high-contact sport football is. I don't really think he's going to start immediately just because I think teams are going to kind of ease him back in, and I don't believe he was actually the first string on the Bills at the time of his injury. At the time of his injury, there was actually someone else in front of him. But I also don't think there's really going to be any changes to the NFL rules. It was just a simple play. David, your thoughts?
Honestly, I was going to say I don't think he even started before the injury with other free safeties such as Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde still in the mix in the Buffalo secondary. So I'm not sure if he would ever get starting minutes, but I think they plan to kind of ease him back into the rotation and, hopefully since the hit he took didn't seem to be like an actual head-to-head contact hit. Hopefully he can avoid further injury in the future. But Chris, how do you think this changes the NFL's concussion protocol rules?
I don't really think it's going to change the concussion protocol too much. Honestly, I think it was just mostly a fair play. I think the play regarding Tua Tagovailoa earlier in the season with all of his concussions, I really think that's honestly going to make more of an impact. David?
Yeah, I think that it's kind of just comes down to situational awareness. If somebody like Tua, obviously, when he fell down that second time, it was clear to see that, something wasn't right going on in his head and that he needed to be taken out of the game. And the fact that he wasn't taken out immediately, I think says that a couple changes do need to be made. However, each team's, health staff and player accommodation staff is different. So it kind of just comes down to more of a team-to-team basis. But I hope that in the terms of both Damar Hamlin and Tua Tagovailoa, that they are able to make healthy returns to the NFL because both of them are still pretty young and have their whole careers ahead of them.
And now it is time to reveal our number one sports story of the week, which is the UW-Whitewater women's softball team. They have been on another hot streak, taking down the Eau Claire Blue Golds 5-4 and 4-1 in their doubleheader recently, with players like KK Kostrowski, Megan Dunning, and Sydney Anderson having huge games, with both Dunning and Anderson bringing in 3 RBIs each. David, how confident are you in our girls to continue this hot streak?
Well, I think a big part of it is going to be Brooke Hawk and how she is 8-0 on the season with only 1 hit allowed, no runs allowed, and 2 strikeouts in her last appearance. And I also think Rian Dick, who is 5-0, who had a full 5 innings pitched with only 1 unearned run in her last start and 1 walk. Those are some absolutely spectacular numbers, and it allows the offense to really build up and give a cushion to the team.
Yeah, other players like Taylor Kohler and the aforementioned KK Kostrowski have to stay hot as well for the team. They've both had really solid starts to the season. Taylor Kohler, only a freshman this year. She hit a walk-off against UW-Platteville to win 5-4 in that game, and she's just been off to a really good start. Another transfer, Maddie Anderson, has been a really hot pitcher for them so far this year as well, as she came in from Eastern Illinois.
Yeah, I think if the pitching continues to set this dominant tone, we've seen multiple pitchers go at least 5 innings with only 1 earned run or less. And if you have that kind of consistency in your starting pitching rotation, it makes it a lot easier for the offense to navigate.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be an uphill battle for the championship just because of how tough the WIAC conference is in every sport, not just softball. I really think the girls have a chance to get it done, though.
Yeah, I think that it really just depends on if the bats can stay as hot as they can. But if they can, I definitely think that we also have a chance to win the WIAC championship.
And that will do it for this edition of The List. We'll be right back next week to talk up the sports headlines. For David Paulier, I'm Chris Pittner, and we will see you then.